For nearly 3 decades, it's despite the occasional brilliant performances by the West Indies cricket teams, most notable the 4 World Cup victories and the champion trophies, the team has been going lower and lower and lower. And according to a former player and a former coach, the team may well continue to go lower. Joining me this morning is the man tasked with reversing that position and letting West Indies becomes once again a winning machine. The director of cricket, Bascombe, is live. Hello everyone, welcome to the Cricket Forum, the Caribbean #1 cricket channel. I thank you for being here and I appreciate your company. Good morning, Mr. Bascombe, and welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning to you, and thank you very much for having me.
So we really appreciate you taking the time out to be here this morning, and we're fully aware that you have a very busy schedule ahead of you, so we'll go very quickly. First, sir, I want to ask you for your reaction to the 3 rounds of cricket that have been played thus far in the regional 4-day tournament.
Well, I think that we've seen some good results. It's always good to see batsmen getting runs on the board. I'm still a little cautious and not to take away from the efforts of the batters. But given what also transpired in county cricket, when they trialed the Kookaburra ball, there was a similar dominance of bat over ball for the period that they used the Kookaburra ball. So I am still keen to see what the next couple of blocks will hold for the batsmen as we revert to the Duke's ball, which we are accustomed to using. But certainly, we still must commend the batsmen, because even though conditions might be a bit easier, it still takes a lot of grit and determination and resilience to stay there and bat and accumulate those runs. So it was very good to see. It has been some really riveting cricket at various points. So I've enjoyed looking at it so far.
Maybe because of the exciting nature of the cricket, a number of persons have been asking, especially on this platform, have been asking me the question, why do there need to be a break in the tournament at this time?
Well, we have to consider, all aspects of it. If you take, for example, the Jamaica team, they have been on the road for 3 straight matches, right? And in our case, being on the road is literally being away from your family, flying, and it does take a toll, as well as the fact that the benefit of continuing the tournament without a break is that those persons who already have some momentum could continue their momentum. And the reality of the world game is that, you don't have that luxury in world cricket. You don't have the opportunity to just continue to play, once you have built some momentum, as we've seen, excuse me, as we saw last year. We had some momentum coming out of Australia, and again this year some momentum coming out of Pakistan, and then we have a months-long wait before our next series. So our players need to be able to use these breaks constructively, use them for some persons who may need some time to rehabilitate from little niggles, and others who probably need to go back to the drawing board. And those who have been successful will need to go and put into training, those things that they have done that have served them well. And they have to put that into training now, so that, when they start back in a couple of weeks' time, that they are able to try to hit the ground running. And these are skills that they would need to be able to be successful in international cricket as well. So apart from the rest, there is also, just the reality of what the international cricket schedule is like. You very rarely get to continue your momentum. You shift from format to format, and then you have in some cases relatively long breaks between series.
Okay. The question though that has been asked, whether you agree with the break or not, why is this first break taking place in the middle of the Champions Trophy? Starting Wednesday, for the next 2.5 weeks, the Champions Trophy will be taking place. Therefore, all our cricketers will be available because it's a clear window for the Champions Trophy. Why then the break couldn't come at another time, and all of our players will then have the opportunity, if they so desire, to play in the regional 4-day tournament?
Well, I can't say that we considered very much the Champions Trophy dates. We considered when we would have liked to start. Previously we used to start much earlier in January, but we realized that it left very limited time for teams to prepare ahead of the teams to prepare ahead of the championship. So we have settled on the back end of January, early February as our starting time. And given the 7 rounds, we have thought it best to do 3 blocks of 3 matches, 2 and 2, with a 2-week break in between. So it was not orchestrated for the break to fall where the Champions Trophy is, but it just so happened to be where it is at this point.
One more question on scheduling before we move on to another aspect. Australia will be playing 1 match at the Grenada National Stadium, and they'll be playing another test at Sabina Park. What we noticed in the scheduling of the regional 4-day tournament, there's no match scheduled for the GNS, and there's only 1 for Sabina Park. Could it be that, being that Australia is going to play at these 2 venues, could we have scheduled more matches for these 2 venues?
Yes, the challenge with Grenada is that they are doing renovation works on their stadium, so it's not available for this scheduling of games. But we are satisfied that the pitch and the outfield, as has always been the case in Grenada, are world class. So we are not worried about, this is not one of the pitches that has been relayed. That is a square that has been consistent and pretty true. So we are confident that while there is a lack of cricket, that we will have things in place in terms of pitch and outfield ready for the Australia Test match. So the work that is being done is on the physical infrastructure of the stadium, and as a result of that work, we cannot have any games at that venue.
Okay. Now, switching to other aspect of the game. As I said at the start of the show, you are the man who is tasked with turning around the West Indies' fortune and turn them into a winning machine. What of your diagnosis being of the challenges that face West Indies cricket, why we are not improving?
Well, I think that what we have struggled with is having systems that are joined up and aligned. So we basically have each territorial board with their own ideas on how they want to run cricket in their territory. And then we have Cricket West Indies trying to get the international teams to play cricket at a certain standard. And, I don't think that we have done a great job of actually aligning those 2 things, which is which is pretty much how I see what I see as a major challenge in my role is ensuring that we are very clear about how we want to play cricket at the international level, right? What do we want our T20 game to look like? What do we want our ODI and test games to look like, and then ensuring that we have systems in place all the way down to the franchise level, down to the under 19 levels, to ensure that we are trying to compound the learnings from those levels all the way up to the senior international team. So pretty much that is what I think that that is where we have lacked, where we have lacked a bit of clarity. We have lacked a lot of clarity in terms of what it is that we want to do at the international level, and what then should be done at the franchise level, under 19s, under 17s, to ensure that we are able to have that style of we have players who can actually execute that style of play at the international stage.
Having identified those challenges and those issues, sir, you would have implemented a number of policies, and we have heard you mooted those policies. How is it that those policies align or bridge the gap between the issues and the challenges so that the game can improve?
Okay, so I'll take you straight to the ODI example. We have recognized that we have been quite poor in one-day cricket for probably for the last 10 years or so. We did not have a clear picture of how we wanted to approach one-day cricket. So what Darren Sammy has done, and his analysts, they pretty much look at what the top 4 ODI teams have been doing in world cricket. What have they done consistently to allow them to maintain their position? And then we compare that to what we have done statistically. And then we first of all, we came up with the bonus point system based on what we think we need to do to get to that top 4 position in one-day cricket. And then we implemented that at the regional level. So that starts to guide players as to, what type of KPIs they should be aiming to achieve in regional tournaments. It also starts to guide the coaches as to what sort of preparation they have to put in place, to get players playing along the lines of that brand that has been outlined and prescribed by the bonus point system, right? So it's initiative like those that will allow us to be able to start to streamline, the way that we want to play, have clarity for players in terms of the roles that they are expected to execute at the international level, and have them actually performing those roles and trying to execute them at regional cricket. So we'll go a step further and try to implement that in our under 19 tournament. So we'll start with a bonus point system there as well, so that from very early, players can get the sense of, what is required between in that first power play, in power play 2 and in power play 3, and then they can start to craft their skills and hone their games around being able to deliver on those requirements.
You mentioned the West Indies head coach there, and we saw where former CEO Johnny Graves said he's not in agreement with the decision to appoint one individual. I'll not call the individual name because I prefer to look at it as the coach, because it's a policy. He's not in agreement with appointing one individual to be the head coach of all 3 formats. And in addition to that, he's also the head selector. He has a final say on who makes the squad. And that's a lot of power in one person's hand. What was the driving influence? What were the criteria that you look at to give one position so much power?
Well, the intention is not necessarily to give that position as much power as people may perceive. It was quite clear that Darren Sammy in T20 and in ODIs have been able, and I know you didn't mention the name, but I think it's important because it is tied to the reason, based on what he has been able to do in ODIs and T20s. He has been able to chart a course. He has been able to provide that clarity about the brand, which I just spoke about is key and vital, crucial towards determining, how we can get that alignment from the lower levels, right? And we have recognized that is what we need in the test team as well, that clarity about how we want to play. And, Sammy has shown that he is able to provide that clarity, and that is the reason. There are pros and cons. We definitely will miss having, the two separate coaches where, one coach can be, if we take, for example, the England and Ireland series coming up, pretty much running straight into the Australia series at home. So previously, we would have been able to have our test team coach working with the test team ahead of the Australia series. But that will not be possible now, because if Darren Sammy stays with the team for the entire duration of the England and Ireland series, he just gets in just prior to the start of the test series. So there are some drawbacks to having one coach, but we are aware of what those are, and we can put plans in place to mitigate against those.
I've decided that I would have not asked you any follow-up question, but stick to the questions that I prepared. But I want to break my own rule on this one occasion. What would be the situation with the A team? And also, will Darren Sammy still continue to be the coach of the Pakistani franchise team that he has coached over a number of years?
Based on the discussions that we have had so far, I think he recognizes the need to be on the ground. So he is not likely to coach with that in the Pakistan League. But again, that is not a final decision. That is sort of where the discussions have been leaning, because I do think that there is a potential overlap with a part of the Ireland and England series. So he would not have been able to do it from start to finish. That is Pakistan. So he is still mulling that over. I missed a bit of the first question where you asked about the selection and the power. And I keep trying to stress that while Darren has the final say, that we are now pooling a lot of data, from our territorial talent IDs, our senior talent manager, and there are a lot more voices and opinions and a lot more data, right? And if you've listened to Darren, you would realize that he believes in data, he trusts in data, and he will be making a lot of his decisions, especially selection decision, based on the data that is provided, right? So while he does have the final say, he is still constrained by what the strategy he has outlined is and the data that has been provided to him that has come from numerous personnel across the region.
Who will be the head coach of the A team? You missed that part. Will it be Darren Sammy, or will it be a different coach?
No, the A team is overlapping the tour to Ireland and England. So he would not be able to do both. We are still working through that team management unit, but it's very likely that it will be Andrew Coley. We've had some discussions about it. As you know, he is still contracted with CWI until the end of June, if I recall. And as I mentioned, still a very competent coach and still committed to making, to improving West Indies cricket. So we've had those discussions. There is no animosity, or there is no, there is no ill will between Andrew, myself, Darren. So we are all still part of the same team trying to work together to move West Indies cricket forward. So he will likely be the head coach of the A team, and then we'll see how it goes beyond that.
Okay. When Barclay came out and spoke about the breakup of the West Indies cricket team into individual territories, Cricket West Indies jumped on it right away and let it clear that that will never happen, which I was happy to hear. However, for the past 4 to 6 weeks, or maybe even longer, we have been hearing about this two-tier structure. Although nothing is formalized, but you would have heard it too. What is the position of Cricket West Indies on this two-tier structure?
Well, I don't know that we have a formal position on it as an organization, because it has been bandied about, but it has never come to the organization through any formal source that that pretty much forces us to take it as more than just somebody's concept. So in terms of from an organizational perspective, I can't proffer a position. But what I can say, as I think most persons have said, is that where we have the information regarding how the tiers will be managed, how the competition will go across the tiers, what the funding model would be like. There are quite a lot of other information that would be necessary to be able to come to an informed position on a structure like that.
I know you have to go in a few minutes, sir, but I want to get in this one, and I want to at least read 2 comments from the chat.
Sure.
You have said on a number of occasions that the door is open for all West Indies cricketers, whatsoever level of cricket they play, wherever they played, to play Test cricket. Are you looking forward to these cricketers taking up that offer? And if they're going to take it up, would you have loved to see them participate in even one regional 4-day match, although it is not a criterion?
Well, definitely. I mean, you always prefer to see players playing in the format, that before you can select them for the similar format and on the international stage. That will always be first preference. So my comments were on 2 fronts. Just in the face of the reality that given very challenging cricket schedules, when you include league cricket, it becomes very difficult at times for these players to get an opportunity to play, because the start of our season usually coincide with about 3 of those major T20 leagues across the world. So there is that challenge, and there is also a knowledge of the skill sets that some of these players possess, right? And of course, they play international cricket. In some cases, they play a lot of white ball cricket, whether it be T20 or ODI cricket. And we do have the opportunity to see them there and assess the skills that they have and the skills that they have developed. And so because our selection is going to be very role-based, it comes back to, does this player possess the skills that will allow them to execute this role more efficiently than perhaps anybody else that we have in our depth chart, right? And so we want to avail ourselves of the skill sets that those players may have. So it's not a case that we prefer them not to play, or it's just a open door to give them the opportunity not to play first-class cricket. The best way to judge if their skill set is adaptable to Test cricket would be to see them in 4-day regional cricket, and that would be our preference all the time. But what we are saying is where where that may not be possible, or where we may not get to see them enough, we do not want to close the door if we can ascertain from the other cricket that they're able to play, that they do possess the skill sets that we need to execute the roles.
I have about 5 questions that I've listed for that particular, but I know that you have to go now. So Double I Sport Cricket is saying the bonus point system was a genius move to improve strike rotation, something lacking in ODI cricket. And he's also praising Darren Sammy to say that Darren Sammy leadership skills and ability to bridge the gap between management and top talent in the West Indies is very impressive. But Mr. Casanova, have a question. Would you react to this just before you go, sir? He said that you need to ask him, when are we going to develop better pitches for our fast bowlers to develop? It's frustrating to see all the top bowlers in our 4-day championship are all spinners over the past 5 years. And you will know the numbers that of the 10 bowlers at the top of the chart right now, after 3 rounds, only 1 seamer is in that, and it is Akeem Jordan. The other 9s are spinners. Would you just react to this comment from Mr. Casanova before you go, sir?
Sure. We definitely need to have more control over our pitches, and we need to be able to prepare them for the outcomes that we would like, based on the opposition. So that is something that we are working on, trying to get a curatorship certification program developed and off the ground. So that is definitely something that we are working on. And in terms of our fast bowlers, I don't know that we could say that we have our fast bowling stocks have suffered as a result of these pitches, because our fast bowling unit has been probably, apart from the tour of Pakistan for obvious reasons, our fast bowling unit has been the main wicket taking force in our test team, right? And when you look at what Shima Joseph has done, what Jaden Seals has done recently, there is still, and if you look, even without looking at the wickets, if you look at the crop of young fast bowlers that are participating in the West Indies Championship, you will also see that there is a lot of talent there. So we just have to be able to keep working with those bowlers to ensure their continued development. But I do definitely take the point that we do need to take some action to work on our pitches so that our fast bowlers, they can have a good run out every now and again, with a pitch that would offer them some pace and a bounce and assistance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bascombe, for joining us. We know you have to go. We had a little mix-up with the time there, but the questions are flooding in on the live chat. I also had probably another 10 questions to ask you, but we appreciate you very much being here this morning, sir, and we hope that sometime in the future we'll have you again, sir. Have a wonderful day, Mr. Bascombe.
Well, given the time and the challenge that we had with the time difference, I'll be more than happy to come back at your request. So you can save the questions, and I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, sir. All the best for the day.
Thank you. Take care.